Nigerian Feminist Media has Little Flies, is a feminist media organization. We work at the intersection of journalism, digital organizing, and community engagement to advance gender equality in Nigeria. What simply this means is that we report daily on things that concerns women and girls' lives. We want to change the way media works when reporting about women. For instance, gender-based violence. You'll see stories about gender-based violence in Nigeria that talks about the victim but never the perpetrator. So through our work, we change these narratives by centering women and reporting properly while also using a feminist approach. What do I mean by digital organizing? We have a monthly X-Space where we discuss issues that affect women and girls in lines with female experts, and then we translate this into policies and interventions to bring the society. What do I mean by community engagement? This means that we go to the grassroots to see how we can empower women, either through their businesses or go to schools to train women and girls and even boys on the need for gender equality. So through all this approach, we hope to advance gender equality in Nigeria and beyond. Thank you.
Selon vous, que nous révèlent les données les plus récentes sur l'ampleur et les schémas de la censure numérique et des violences sexistes en Afrique de l'Ouest?
Alright, what the evidence shows is that we have a lot of women and girls that are experiencing tech-facilitated gender-based violence. Specifically, some research has shown that half of women, that's about 50 women, has reported on having experienced technology-facilitated gender-based violence in Nigeria. I'm also a journalist, and as you know, Nigerian Feminist Media is a journalist organization. So I'm going to be breaking this down with some of the reports that we've done. For instance, recently we did a report about how women who are on the plus side are bullied on Twitter. And this is like a real life issue happening, where on Twitter, one of the victims, or one of the survivors then told us that she had gone to a party and she posted a picture on Twitter, and they were overwhelming a lot of people telling her that, are you pregnant? Why are you fat like this? Why do you look like this? Oh, you're so ugly. They began to compare her to all sorts of animals, and this is real and this is recent. Calling her whale, the fattest animal in the world. And this was not just a coincidence. We also reported another survivor that faced the same issue, and this lady deactivated her Twitter account after these things happened. So the evidence shows that this thing is very rampant and is highly coordinated. Again, I as a journalist, I reported on an issue currently on Telegram, and you would not believe that Telegram is being used to coordinate commercial sexual exploitation en masse against women and girls. It's crazy because we went to the field, or I went to the field, and I found out that for every city in Nigeria, there's a Telegram group that is coordinating and live prostitution for every city in Nigeria. So all you have to do is this Telegram to connect men and women to carry out prostitution, not just in every city, but also in every university. But it doesn't end there. They also exploit these women on the group. And one group, I counted over 86 groups, and one group has like 16,000 members. And they charge up to 30,000 naira, let me say maybe 5,000 sefa, 6,000 sefa. You can imagine how much that is. And it's not just that they're exploiting these women, they use the leaked nudes of women and minors to advertise sexual exploitation. So they'll be like, oh, this group is happening, there's prostitution, and then the leaked nudes of women and girls, they put it out there, claiming these girls and women are prostitutes and inviting you to join them and pay. And we see that this is possible due to the fact that technology is now everywhere. and people are using it in a very large scale to coordinate sexual harassment against women and girls, abuse, bullying, body shaming, amongst others. Thank you.
Je souhaiterais demander si cela implique la crédibilité de nos revendications.
You are asking how the absence of some sort of data affects the credibility of our claim. Right. So let's talk about who are excluded from this data. Now, we all know, or we probably do know, that it is not all forms of, it's not every woman that reports technology facilitated gender-based violence, because some women don't want to be seen as victims. Some women don't want the, oh, she's a false accusation, she's a liar. I'm just going to be speaking on reality here, and pardon me that I'm going to be using Nigeria as an example a lot. So they have issues that sometimes when these women come out to say, oh, I've experienced sexual harassment, I've experienced sexual abuse, there's a sort of playbook. The first and foremost is that you begin to attack the victim. Oh, is it true? How do we know you're not lying? Oh, women lie a lot about sexual and gender-based violence. You know what? In fact, she should be the one to go to prison. Alright? There and there, people already judge the survivor as a false accuser. And right there and there, they've already had that she should be taken to prison. Right there and then. So because of that, you find out that a lot of women are reluctant to even report this abuse because they had the one on trial. So some of the things that are missing in this data are the women that did not even report. But also very important is the perpetrators. For some reason, they keep talking about technology facilitated gender-based violence as though it is women that is doing it to themselves. Who are the perpetrators? Why are they not centered in the conversation? They are the data as well as the perpetrators. Which gender mostly have perpetrators against women and girls? What is their age group? Where are they? What is their profession? It is very much excluded, and it must center the conversation. Because as long as we keep focusing on the fact that, oh, women are being abused, women are being harassed, we are almost looking as though it's ghosts. But the people we want to change are not the women, and then the people we want to change are the perpetrators. So we must have the data of the perpetrators. It's very difficult in Nigeria, for instance, to get the data for the numbers of men that have been prosecuted for rape in Nigeria. Some of the data will still point you to early 2020 something. You don't even have a data throughout the country. So for instance, in Lagos State, there's an increase in numbers of men that have been prosecuted. But you will see the data that is aggregated. So you have data for Lagos State, but you don't have the data for the whole of Nigeria. Or you have data for Nigeria, we don't even have data for Nigeria. But do we even have the data for West Africa? How many men has been imprisoned, convicted by a judge for raping their daughters? Do we know the numbers? Because the problem is when feminists go on Twitter and start saying, this happens, what you get is gaslighting. Oh, did your father do it to you? There's the evidence your father did it to you. You know, one of the first things we want to do when women talk and attack is, where's the data? But data is not just number. It is what do they look like? Where are they? Where are they working? For instance, I can tell you that in Nigeria, one of the highest voices that perpetrates, that leads to victim blaming are male influencers. But where are the data? So one of the things we do have in Nigerian feminist media, for instance, is when we are reporting, you report your face, we'll put your face there, we'll put your full name there, as part of accountability. So we are not just talking about this woman as the name, it is this man has raped this woman. Because until we begin to account for the data of the perpetrators, and not just the numbers, but also how they look, where they work, what their profession is, their age range, then we will not be able to adequately solve the problem. We'll keep talking about what should be changed, rather than what should make change, how should they change. Thank you.
Au regard de tout ce que vous venez de dire, pourquoi les données existantes parviennent-elles si rarement à atteindre ou à convaincre les décideurs? Et à quel maillon précis de la chaîne, et à quel maillon précis la chaîne seront telles.
Yeah, so why doesn't this data, where do we have the gap or the break in data reaching policymakers and those that could make the change? Again, I'm going to be giving real-life practical examples as a journalist and as a media director. So, for instance, I just investigated technology-facilitated gender-based violence on Telegram. In Nigeria, there is a law that it is against third-party facilitated prostitution. There is a law against it. There is no law against prostitution, but there is a law against third-party facilitating because of exploitation. Now, I am in a Telegram group that is literally a brothel, an online digital brothel. There are more than 86 groups of it. So what did I do while documenting all of this fantastic work, spending months and months investigating it? I got the contact, I investigated the admin of the group. I found that I lived in a city called Calabar. I traced where they started their group from. And then I went to look for the head of the police in Calabar. And I told them, this and this is happening in this Telegram group. These are the admin. In fact, I've traced them for you and realized that it's in Calabar. So you can finish their investigation and arrest them. Police told me, prostitution is not really against Nigerian law. There's really nothing I can do about it. You know, unless you can get more evidence of exploitation from me. Maybe they are dragging and forcing the women. The police does not even know its own law in the country. I went as far as giving him the link to the group so that it will not be that we are not giving you enough evidence. So you can see for yourself and see all the atrocities that are happening. In fact, the men, you know, they are literally making money from it because you have to pay to even join some of these groups. And sometimes they will tell the women have to be verified escorts. For that investigation, I became a verified prostitute because I don't want anybody to agree with me that it's not happening. That was how I went to it. But for some reason, the police is still telling me they cannot act after giving you all of this information and evidence. So it shows lack of political will. It shows lack of interpretation of law. It shows how law don't even understand what is happening, even when all of this information are happening. Nigeria has been trying to pass gender bill how many years now? What's happening? The Reserved Women's Seats Bill, a feminist organization has been working towards it. They keep postponing it, they did not pass it. On the day it's supposed to happen, they passed the police reform bill, they did not pass the feminist bill, the women reserved seat bill. So it shows that one of the issues is there's a lack of political will. Now, I talked about, I messaged Telegram about what is happening on their platform because remember, we're talking about technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And Telegram is one of the platforms in which they are using to promote this technology-facilitated gender-based violence. I mean, women's link nodes are being used to advertise prostitution. Now, I emailed Telegram, they did not even respond to me. But they took down one of the groups that I talked about. But there are 86 groups, and I'm even giving people the data. There are more than 86 groups. Not only did I give them the data, there are more than 86 groups. I documented all the handles. I even did screenshots of everything for them. Do you know that Telegram ended up suspending me from their platform? Till now, I'm suspended on Telegram. Me that went to do the search for data for them. We're having this conversation. Is there anybody from any of the social media platforms here? Do you have a representative of Telegram here? Do you have a representative of Facebook? Twitter? Instagram? Where are they? How is the data supposed to get to them? And it's not that we're not doing our best. Doing my investigation on Twitter, on how women are experiencing and they're body shaming them on Twitter, I used my hand to report all of these handles to Twitter. Twitter took one down, told me the rest know that they are wrong. They are literally calling a woman fat pig. But you tell me that it's not against you. I sent an email to Twitter telling them that you have a policy against body shaming. I've reported these platforms to you. I gave them evidences, and evidences of them saying no. Do you know what Twitter response is? Nobody's monitoring this email, sorry, you can't respond. So how exactly do we want to get them to listen to like this? Because the truth is, and I think one of the panelists and the other one mentioned it, we are consumers. We don't have power. It's Twitter safe. Nigeria did internet shutdown when they said they were unhappy with this during the EndSARS protest, and they shut down our internet. For Twitter, after they had conversation with them, they said Twitter must have a representative in Nigeria. They must have a country representative in Nigeria. They also said they must have an office in Nigeria. In fact, there's the meeting that's the Nigerian impact on what these big platforms must do, technology facilitated platforms must do in order to protect women, protect their users, blah, 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 blah. There's no country office in Nigeria to be with Twitter, so how do you want to hold them accountable? I sent an email to Nitiga asking them that people have these policies on what technology platforms people can do. This, and this. How have you been holding them accountable? See, today they've not answered me, they still say they will get back to me. It's been more than 4 months. So these issues are complex. For instance, Nigeria Feminist Media partner with UHS Cares Foundation. UHS Cares Foundation has been documenting the cases of femicide in Nigeria. Data. There's a live dashboard documenting this. They've been trying very hard to get it to policymakers. As a matter of fact, they are currently collaborating with policymakers for it. But UHS Foundation had to pay 100,000 naira to use part of the policymakers' law. In fact, they had to. NGO has to pay policymakers just to bring them to the room, just to facilitate bringing them to the room. The NGO has to fly from Lagos to Abuja, and they do not have funding. Because they say, hey, they too, for this unit and the National Assembly in Nigeria. But for you to facilitate bringing the policymakers into the room, you have to pay. You have to spend money. There was a time we wrote the femicide law, we wrote the femicide bill and took it to them. They responded and said, hey, why are we talking about femicide law? Other countries have not enacted a femicide law. Why should Nigeria do it first? So there's a lack of political will. That is where the chain breaks. Like, Africa do not have enough power. We are consumers of this technology of these technological platforms. We can hold them accountable. There's nothing we can do. Do we know how they are the ones that set their own policies? They'll be the ones to tell you that this is against their law. They are still the ones to tell you that it violates or it does not violate. Do we know how they come about this rule? Many of them do not even understand our local languages. So if they are bullying someone in a local language, they don't even know. To them, it's nothing. Many of them count individual harassment as not enough. Not knowing that it compounds to become a whole lot of cyberbullying. Right? So the chain breaks again. Sometimes we don't have enough data to get policymakers. Sometimes we don't have enough power to bring policymakers into the room. Sometimes we don't have enough of competitive advantage. Sometimes, a lot of people don't even get it. We went to the Lagos State Assembly protesting that we want to explain to them what femicide is. But it was another conversation they were having with them. I was to say, you need to protest for men now. Why you protest? You this feminist, why you always protesting for women? I can't protest for men. So there are lots of things we need to change before we can get there. We need to have some power. We've talked about, during the last panel session, we need to collaborate. Yes. But how do we even collaborate with people that do not even have our time? Because let's remember, these platforms are also there to make money. Facebook is there to make money, Twitter is there to make money. And they've done the algorithm in such a way that what people are engaging with is what they keep amplifying. So if it is harassment they are engaging with, they keep amplifying it. Bringing them to the room takes a whole lot of different problems. I like that the former panel also talk about funding and institutional funding. Feminist organizations are one of the least funded organizations. In fact, when I wanted to start my organization, Niger Feminist Media, people were telling me it's feminist in your name. Are you sure people want to associate with you? Are you sure you are going to get funding? When the UN says there can be no sustainable development with their gender equality, I'm not just saying it for saying it. It's the fact. You cannot exclude half of the human population and expect to reach your full potential. So the funders must know this, the civic space must know this. Funders should scout for organizations that are doing the work. Sometimes I see organizations that want to fund 5 years, we must have 5 years this, we must have 6 years this, we must have 7 years this. Let's also do targeted funding for young organizations so that we can also help them grow. So funding cannot be overemphasized. Of course, we must do this reasonable, we must do this respectable. We know the civic space or the funding space is shrinking, but we should not use the excuse of the funding space is shrinking to exclude women or to exclude feminist organizations, because we know right from when the data is there, they are not even funded enough. That's one thing. Alliances. We cannot solve the problem without technological mass. We are talking about technological facilitated gender-based violence. We must bridge that gap between our community here and Silicon Valley over there. We must find a way to own some sort of power where we can negotiate with the tech owners such that they can make these things easier. For instance, one of the things tech owners can do is to amplify feminist advocacy. Do you know that some platforms like Facebook de-emphasize news reports and emphasize entertainment? In Nigeria, they are talking about something called Olodo uprising, Olodo uprising, which means that the internet space has de-emphasized intellectualism and platform people that are mostly into entertainment and not necessarily intellectual. But not a coincidence, because the tech owners want people to stay more on their platforms. So entertainment is one of the things that make people stay more on their platform. So the algorithm automatically emphasize that. But the algorithm will also make sure that we feminist organizations and movements are not working with one hand tied behind our backs. Let's amplify these things. Nigeria Feminist Media, for instance, wanted to apply for Google non-for-profit to amplify our website. But one of the things we were talking about is our website is not NGO enough, but we are a feminist media, so we are a journalism platform. So that was emphasized. But for some reason, because they've not thought about it, or partly because they've not thought about that kind of intervention, we were not allowed to make some of our advocacy rank higher. You see feminist media doing the work, but then you just be seeing 1 like, 2 like. Sometimes people are not even seeing it. Even you yourself that are following the social media platforms, they are not seeing it. So we must find a way to bring these tech owners on board, amplify this advocacy. You will see misogynistic narrative spreading wild like wildfire. And I even forgot to mention, 2 different times, Nigeria Feminist Media account has been taken down by Twitter at the height of our advocacy. When there's a sexual issue of sexual gender-based violence, and we begin to tweet and advocate, Twitter will lock our account for unauthentic account. Hazard, right? And then for days, when the conversation has almost died down, that's when Twitter will unlock it. Sometimes we suspect that people are mass reporting our accounts in order to take us down. So we need to have interventions like that during advocacy, you can't be truncating feminist voices. You can't. Twitter has even banned it from Twitter said before. They could be the most misogynistic thing said ever. And for some reason, these people continue, their accounts continue to grow. But families that is countering that narrative, accounts are flying down. They're taking them down, they're muting our voices. There's a problem. There's a really big problem. So we cannot take out technological platforms from 10 facilitate gender-based violence. So we must build very strong alliances with them. Then we must build strong alliances with communities. Our messaging should not just go to women, but it must also go to men. So who do we need to partner with? Not these ones that are doing manosphere. For instance, in Nigeria, we have the gay university where all the things they are teaching men is, don't be a saint. Because if you respect women, men will down at you. If you do chores at home, the woman will call you woman rapper or more, this and that. You know, sometimes let's find a way to partner with. Maybe it's their parents we need to talk to. Maybe it's their employers we need to talk to, or whatever, to make sure that there's a form of psychological structuring, and not just for men, but also for women, to align with gender equality. Schools, nobody taught me feminism in school. I know some people thought, they saw some people feminism in school, but not my school. In fact, I didn't know gender equality was a thing until I got to Twitter and then women should be submission to men, and I'm like, myself. And then I realized it's a whole thing. So let's partner with educational institutions. How do we begin to groom these people? When we are doing, I remember very clearly doing moral education in primary school. Let's include this into moral education. Let's include what consent is. Let's explain to people what consent is. Let's explain to people what harassment is. So women and girls do not even know they are harassed. They will think they are playing with them. They don't even know. So when we are talking about data, and you ask a woman, have you been harassed before? She can't tell you because she doesn't know what's happening to us harassment. Right? So we need to partner everywhere and anywhere, whoever and however, whatever institution, educational institution, technological partners, civic space, and all. Let's build all of these alliances. One of the speakers talk about coalitions. Let's build strong coalitions to ensure, and let's work hand in hand to ensure that we actually reduce technological facilities in that big violence. And it's not just when we are just talking again, I must emphasize about, women are being harassed. It is men harassing women. And then how do we change this attitude? And then let's look at who are the primary harassers, who are the second, who are the enablers, who are the ones enabling this. Let's look at the data and let's make strategic, intentional, very intentional solutions to make sure that we address this. It is possible. If we can end slavery, we can end gender equality. So there's nothing like inequality. So there's nothing like, let's be realistic, this cannot happen. If slavery, if we all can come together as a society and say human beings should not be taking another human being's captive on the basis of color, or saying somebody is inferior because of their color, and we can, and as long as we can continue to resist with Black Lives Matter, we can definitely do this with gender equality. Thank you.
Je vous prie d'organiser, Madame.
Elle était vraiment passionnée sur le sujet.
Il faut l'avouer, toutes les plateformes de réseaux sociaux ont un modèle économique où c'est nos données qui sont vendues. Parce que tout produit que nous utilisons qui est gratuit, c'est que nous sommes nos produits. Donc moi j'estime qu'à partir du moment où on parvient à se regrouper comme ça, s'il y a lieu de créer un espace où on se partage nos expériences pour voir comment est-ce que dans telle ou telle autre situation, comment est-ce qu'on parvient à gérer ça. Je pense que nous au Bénin ici, du moins moi, j'ai eu la chance d'être formé quand même par Facebook Afrique, parce qu'il y a eu cette collaboration que nous on a eu avec Facebook Afrique pour être formé sur les questions de sécurité, et sur les réseaux sociaux et autres. Donc on a un point focal par exemple au Bénin. Si quelqu'un me contacte moi, je peux le mettre en contact avec le point focal. Il faut dire que pour ce qui est de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, le point focal est au Sénégal, est basé au Sénégal. Donc nous ici au Bénin, on collabore avec FGI, le Forum du gouvernement internet, quelque chose comme ça. FGI Bénin. Donc c'est avec le président de la FGI Bénin que nous est en relation. Quand nous avons une situation, quelqu'un perd l'accès à son compte par exemple, je le mets en contact avec le responsable de FGI qui prend contact avec les représentants de Facebook qui sont basés au Sénégal. Parce qu'il faut comprendre que généralement, il y a des terminologies que nous utilisons sur les réseaux sociaux que les robots bloquent systématiquement. Vous voyez un peu, quand les robots bloquent ça, c'est que vous n'avez plus accès à votre compte. Maintenant, derrière, ils demandent de se faire identifier. Dans l'identification, ça peut ne pas aussi aboutir. Donc, il faut qu'une personne physique puisse intervenir pour que le processus puisse aboutir. Donc, très généralement, nous, on fait ça. Nous, on a cette collaboration qu'on a. Donc, c'est pourquoi je disais que c'est bien de s'interconnecter entre organisations, de partager les expériences. Parce que beaucoup d'organisations ont connu ce problème-là. Même d'autres ont perdu accès à leur compte de la page Facebook, là, où d'autres ont été victimes de harcèlement en ligne. Il y a des situations qui viennent comme ça. Donc, c'est juste pour dire qu'on a cette possibilité. Je ne sais pas ce qu'il y en est par rapport à X, qui est autrefois Twitter au Nigeria, parce que j'ai appris cette campagne. C'est une campagne qui a réussi en son temps chez eux à l'époque, dont nous on s'est également inspiré au Bénin. Merci.
Je suis très contente d'avoir écouté la dame et éventuellement par rapport à la participation des médias par rapport aux droits des femmes et ainsi de suite. Mais je pense qu'elle a énoncé deux éléments qui me semblent importants. La première, c'est d'abord l'apport que les médias peuvent apporter dans la lutte contre les violences basées sur le genre à l'endroit éventuellement des femmes de manière globale. L'autre élément, c'est qu'à un moment donné, nous devons nous-mêmes, en tant que des femmes, pour pouvoir avoir des données importantes et pouvoir éventuellement faire des plaidoyers, nous armer de courage. Et au-delà de nous armer de courage, des fois même, de prendre la décision d'utiliser des moyens pour descendre sur le terrain, même s'il quitte à être une prostituée pour avoir des informations. Parce qu'elle a dit, j'ai dû utiliser une technique pour pouvoir éventuellement avoir des informations relatives à cela, pour montrer que au niveau du Nigeria, que c'est important, que c'est une question de santé publique, qu'il faut aider ces femmes-là, qu'il faut les soutenir. Maintenant, il ne faut pas s'arrêter là, parce que je pense que nous sommes des féministes. Nous sommes dans différents pays. Nous devons avoir ce link-là pour pouvoir éventuellement, quand il y a un problème T au Nigeria, que ce problème T soit relié même au Sénégal et que les réseaux féministes puissent prendre le relais pour donner les bonnes informations, divulguer. Et ça commence déjà présent. Nous devons nous défendre parce qu'on est harcelé. Parce que quand on est féministe, déjà on est harcelé. Donc pour défendre les autres femmes, il faut avoir cette patience, avoir cet amour, avoir cet engagement de dire stop et éventuellement de donner des pistes de solutions pour que nos États puissent s'impliquer par rapport à ce que nous sommes en train de faire. En tout cas, je loue votre courage, mais je dis il est important aujourd'hui en tant que des voix, parce que vos voix portent, vous êtes des journalistes, mais il faut partager davantage vos expériences, mais partager aussi au-delà de vos expériences ce que vous vivez, créer ce consortium pour nous permettre, nous les féministes du monde, de pouvoir éventuellement véhiculer nous les informations que nous voulons. Les données sont importantes et c'est le cœur même du métier. Si nous n'avons pas de données, bientôt les bailleurs de fonds vont se retirer. Si nous voulons montrer qu'il y a des violences qui existent jusqu'à présent dans nos sociétés, dans nos maisons, et ainsi de suite, que ce soit le viol, que ce soit le harcèlement, que ce soit les mutilations génitales féminines qu'on dise, oui, d'ici 2030, je dis vraiment, il y a des questions à revoir et ce sont les données qui vont nous permettre de pouvoir les documenter. Je vous remercie.
Je vais déjà la remercier pour sa prestation. Et on parle de données. Et ce matin, M. Rémy est revenu là-dessus. Nous avons des données, des outils qui existent donc au niveau régional, au niveau de l'Afrique. La question c'est de savoir si ces outils, les données terrain sont vulgarisées au niveau donc des différents pays. Et l'autre chose, comment se fait l'utilisation de ces outils? est-ce que les femmes leaders engagées que nous sommes ici présents dans cette salle, nous avons connaissance du contenu de ces outils et est-ce qu'ils sont mis en pratique déjà sur le terrain en tant qu'ONG? Parce que pour ce que je sais, c'est que la pratique traditionnelle, par exemple, nous met à disposition des outils tels que les fiches d'identification des cas de VBG. On a également des fiches de référence usuelles pour la référence vers les structures spécialisées au niveau toujours de l'identification et de la prise en charge des cas de VBG. Mais c'est pour ces outils standardisés au niveau, on va dire international ou au niveau de l'Afrique. Est-ce que nous-mêmes, en tant que femmes leaders, nous avons connaissance du contenu de ces outils? Et l'autre chose, est-ce que nous sommes formés à ce que la pratique suive? Parce que tant qu'il n'y a pas cette pratique-là, naturellement, on ne pourra pas avoir cet élément-là comme, j'ai envie de dire, un instrument de plaidoyer auprès des autorités, auprès des décideurs.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see all of us engaging in this conversation. I love the passion of my sister there, urging us to be courageous. Thank you very much. I think one of the things I didn't say or I didn't finish about my investigation was I contacted the police via WhatsApp. So again, this is technology for facilitating gender-based violence, and we can always use technology to also fight it back as a form of resistance. So also to keep ourselves safe. So I contacted the police via WhatsApp. When the police of the state did not answer me, I sent an email to the head of police in Nigeria, and I listed up my point, and they responded and said, valid, you work on it, right? So another thing is after the investigation, I partnered with another organization in Nigeria, Citizen Gapfield, who are currently suing Telegram for technology facilitated against gender-based violence. And we continue to work together for advocacy to make sure that Telegram answers for what is happening in Nigeria. My sister over there spoke about how these realities can expand to other countries. I use Nigeria mainly as an example because my work focuses in Nigeria, but I know that we all can relate to this in our different regions. And the contribution from everybody has been valid. One of the things we can do is let's form coalitions in our various organizations. For instance, Nigeria Feminist Media is a coalition of feminists who are mostly volunteers and working to address this. I know we have feminists in Kenya, so we can also do that in our collective organization. We have Nigeria Feminist Media, which is basically Nigerian Feminist Media. Let's have Benin Feminist Media. Let's have Uganda Feminist Media. Let's have Ghana Feminist Media. Let's begin to do all of this work. We've talked about collaborations all again and again, and the fact that in case you're having problems, is there a network we can go to? We've talked about training to use tools. Again, all of this is very valid. It still ties back to funding. Let's get funding to fund organizations so that they can do trainings. It also goes back to coalition. We as a civil space, we should work together. And like I said, for young organizations like us, it's not like when we say let's work together and let's join your coalition, you ask us for money. You can look at our track record and also subsidize or even allow these organizations to join so that we have a very strong institution. I think I've basically touched on many of these, but very important is as long as we keep working at it, as long as we keep being in rooms like this, having convergence like this, and I was there RFLD for making this kind of conference and conversation happen, as long as we continue to resist change. I also know that we spoke about safety. First and foremost, the idea and the goal for technology facilitated is to end it. It's not for men to be facing defense or attacks. Technological platforms must work to ensure that women do not even experience this. There are patterns of misogyny. That is why tech platforms must also work with feminist organizations to understand it. It is not a coincidence that there is manosphere, which is men that are built careers, the handicap of this world, on talking down on women. That's their career. And they are making lots of money from it. So you cannot say women should not start reporting them. They will even take those platforms down. That is their career, so we must understand what are the patterns of misogyny, and we must incorporate these patterns into safeguarding it. It's not until after they finish insulting a woman, you will see sometimes 100 comment section, different kind of woman insults. How many people do you want to start reporting? So we must work to ensure that these platforms are mitigating it from the very beginning. In their design, the feminist approach is there, and then at the collective end, while we should continue to practice safety, the entire goal is ending violence, male violence, or technology-facilitated gender-based violence against women and girls, and very importantly, ensuring gender equality in the world. Thank you.